products I'm using for this project. I'm using an ebony wood stain. It's a min wax. The number is 2718. It's really dark. It's basically black. Definitely not for everybody, but that's what I chose to go with. Also, it's left over from my studio desk project when I built that. So it's something I had laying around the house. So to save some money, I just went ahead and used that. It's looking like a barn rustic old finish right now. So I like it. You know, worst case, I can just fucking do it again. So the top coat, I'm gonna do several coats. I don't know how many yet, but it's gonna be coat and sand, coat and sand. I'm using a Varnishing, which is a polyurethane varnish, gloss finish, diamond wood finish, water-based interior. Also, I'm using some steel wool, superfine steel wool from Home Hardware. Foam brushes. I get a package at the dollar store. It comes in all different. The package has all different sizes, and you know, for super cheap. So just go to the dollar store, get some foam brushes, throw them out when you're done with them. Fuck it. So we're gonna go ahead now and get the first coat of varnish on there. Let it dry. It's gonna get a scuff sand. We're gonna apply the next coat. It's gonna get a more leveling sand, and then just go from there. Then we're gonna polish at the end, and we'll go through that. That'll probably be a separate video for the polishing, and then an assembly video as well. So right now we're on part 3, which is staining and finishing. So let's go ahead and get our varnish on it. Okay, I got the first coat on. Something fucked up with the camera, but doesn't matter. It's the same shit for the second coat. The first coat soaks in basically to the wood, so it doesn't even look like there's anything on there, but I'm just going to touch it really lightly with some steel wool. I've already done the front and sides, and just touch it lightly to give it a bit of a scuff. The idea is to build up this top coat varnish. Then in between coats there's going to be a lot of sanding once it gets a base on it. Right now, to sand it, you would just be back to the wood and the next coat would soak in. Like I said, I've already done the front and the sides. What I'm doing is I start with the back and the sides. And then when I flip it over, I can clean up any of the runs and stuff on the sides, and the back stays okay. Any of these cavities, try not to get too much in there. I'm only going to do the one coat that I already did in there. And I touched it up with a small brush. You don't want to change any of the dimensions of your back plates or any of that shit. So I'm putting it on fairly thin, using a foam brush from the dollar store. Basically, you want to get it on there, move it around like this, and then go back. I'm going to go back after it's coated and kind of do a touch over with the foam brush. You gotta be careful not to get any big globs in any of your cavities. So this shit, basically white. It's like fucking cum white. But it dries clear. It kind of has a translucent white, kind of blue color when in the thicker spots when you're brushing it on. Just move it around. Try and keep it as even as possible. So that's kind of the back. So now I'm going to do the sides, just gently. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I got a bit of a glob down in there. So I'm just going to use a smaller foam brush. Try and soak it out of there, pick it out of there. Like I said, I already steel wooled this side, so it's just a matter of applying my varnish. So I got it basically applied, just going to go over it lightly, touch it.
That's looking pretty good. So there is brush marks from the foam brush. I'm the stuff I'm using is probably over a year old. That's been open, so it's a little thicker. You can always thin it. But I'm going to be sanding this anyways and fairing it as we go. That's very important to keep it smooth, because if you were to go over these brush marks over and over and over again without sanding it out, you're going to have a really uneven finish when you're done with it. So you got to keep it smooth right from the beginning. So after, say, the second coat, third coat, you really want to get in there with some flat sandpaper, even with a sanding block, so that it's nice and smooth. So we're going to let this dry. We're going to come back and decide if we're going to hit it with sandpaper or steel wool, or what we're going to do for this coat, and keep going from there. Okay, so this is 3 coats of the polyurethane varnish on here. This last coat dried overnight. In between coats, I just scuffed it with steel wool. Now the brush marks are starting to be more noticeable, so we're going to knock it down a bit, try and fair it out some. What you want to do is your flats first. You don't want to sand through into your wood, because then you're going to have to, the first coat's going to soak back in again. So do your flats first, then do your angles. Never do your corners until the last part. So let's give this a try, see how it goes. I'm using a sanding block for my flats with like 220 grit sandpaper, and not pushing too hard. All we really want to do is fair the surface. We're not trying to sand this off. We just want to knock down some of the brush lines. Okay, so the top looks about done. So I basically did my flats, then my angles, then you can go ahead and hit your any of your corners. So I'm going to go ahead and I just got to do the sides here. Okay, so that's basically done. Punched through in a couple of spots on the corners. That's why you got to be really careful. That's okay. It is what it is. Just try and do the best you can. So I'm going to roll this off, give it a wipe down, and we'll get another coat of varnish on here. Again, see how many coats we can get done through the day.